Welcome! Is your team still working like this? You're not answering my messages, so can you please review my pull request? It's been open for like
2 weeks now.
right, okay, just let me know. Okay. If this was your company, then unfortunately you're not going to be getting any funding from now on. Because you see, the guys at the frontier let their one engineer be the front end, the back end, database engineer, tech support, scrum master, manager, staff engineer, maybe principal even, maybe even CTO, who knows. And maybe, just maybe, this one engineer is also the CEO. That's right, this one engineer is now the entire company. But how is this possible, you may ask?
Agentic workflows.
I hope you liked the intro, but now seriously, this is a video about a agent's workflow that allows you to open an issue in GitHub, tag an agent, let it implement what you ask it to implement, which will then open a pull request, which will create a completely isolated copy of your production environment on the go with the preview URL so that you can explore the changes that the agent did. The plan is the following. I will first go over some prerequisite knowledge that you need for the whole workflow to make sense. Then I will go over the architectural diagrams, and in the end, I will do the live demo. Meanwhile, in the description below, there will be the complete example repository as well as a repository with Claude Code and Codex skills so that you can replicate this for your own project. Before we begin, there are 3 things you should know for this workflow to make sense. Those are what preview environments are, what agentic workflows are, and what database branching is. Starting with agentic workflows, this is a word that I've been hearing a lot about online lately, and I did my best to understand what it really is, and I think I did. I think I reached a good conclusion for what agentic workflows are. So, agentic workflows are just a step above DevOps workflows or automation. It is basically automation, but automation where the foundation of the results that you're getting are being handled by the agent. And what makes it a workflow is that you're having an environment where you are initializing this agent and doing your best to configure it in such a way so that its actions are predictable. And not only actions, but also the end results. This happens through policies and guardrails and also triggers. This is what makes it a workflow. So essentially, an agentic workflow is basically automation handled by an agent. Preview environments, on the other hand, this is not a new concept. This is something that engineers have been using for quite some time now. It is coming from DevOps. It is a DevOps technique that allows you as a developer to have a completely isolated replica of your production environment spawned on the go, which means that on every pull request you open and every commit you do to this pull request, you're getting all those changes reflected in a real environment that is an exact copy, exact replica of the production environment, but it is isolated. This is especially good for teams that have QA engineers and have all those processes of reviewing the changes, and it also makes it very easy for the developer who made the changes to understand how his changes would affect the current live application. And this also makes it a very nice fit for developing with AI agents, because, you're getting the exact same replica of your production environment, but it is an isolated one. So essentially, you're vibe coding without worrying that you're going to break something. Database branching is the third concept that I am utilizing in this workflow and is quite important actually. And this is quite funny. I thought that database branching is just copying my production database and redeploying it again, or just snapshotting my production database, which is not this. Database branching, it turns out that true branching only happens when you have your compute and storage separated. This way, when you're making new writes to your database, you can essentially branch it off to new branches from those checkpoints that have been created on the new writes. And you are getting a real copy of your database with the entire data inside of it very quickly because the two processes are separated, the compute and the storage. And with this, all the prerequisite knowledge is now in place, and I will continue with the architectural diagrams. Before I do that though, I just want to say that if you want to use the Claude Code and Codex skills that I have put in the description for you to basically copy everything you see here for your environment, you would have to use Neon. Chances are you're already using Neon if you're watching this, but yeah, just so you know, just in case. This is because this workflow relies on the branching strategy of Neon, but again, if you're using another database, this is okay. The workflow, the automation is pretty standard. You would just have to tune it for your setup. So this is the high-level architecture. Then I will go a little bit more in depth into what each workflow does. So let's go with the high level. Essentially, what the workflow looks like is that you create an issue, then tag the agent. It initiates a status reply, which we are using for tracking of what the agent is doing. Then the agent CI triggers, it makes the change, pushes the branch. It opens a pull request, which triggers another workflow, GitHub workflow, that deploys our preview environment. Our preview environment consists of, in my case, Argo CD and Neon, where in Argo CD I'm using an application set to deploy a separate application that is a copy of the production one, as we spoke about earlier. On the Neon side, I am basically checking out a new preview branch, which is a copy of my production branch. If I like what I see, I merge the pull requests, essentially merging the preview environment of my Argo CD application into the production application. And the same goes for the Neon side. My preview branch gets merged into the production branch. If I don't like what I see, I close the pull request, which will delete the preview branch in Neon, and it will also delete the preview application in my Argo CD. Now, going in a little bit deeper into how the automation unfolds, when you tag the agent in your issue, a set of verification policies take place because we don't want anyone to be able to call the workflows because, well, it is spending a lot of tokens, right? And by the way, for this specific implementation that I did, I used my Codex out credentials and essentially make use of my OpenAI subscription. You can do the same. I used to do this with Claude Code in the past as well, but they caught up to it because apparently a lot of people were doing it and they started refreshing their tokens a lot more often. So when the keyword and the color are correct, the workflow triggers the first workflow, which is the agent workflow. At the start of it, we are first setting the base for on which the agent is going to depend on for making the changes, which is to collect the issue context, install the required software. We are creating the Git branch, creating the database branch, and initiating the issue reply, which we are then using for tracking of the agent's actions. Then we're booting Codex in my case. Again, you can do this with Claude Code or Pi or GroxCLI or any terminal agent really, and it gets to work. When it is done, we are running the migrations, we are pushing to the preview branch, and we are updating the status reply. Then a pull request is being created, which it happens through the dispatch on trigger, and the second workflow, the second GitHub workflow takes place, which essentially does most of the things that the first workflow does, but with the intention to deploy the changes. We are running the migrations, we are building and pushing a container, and in this container, we are baking in the out URL and the data API URL for the new preview branch that we got from Neon. Then this container image is being referenced in the manifest for the preview application, which then we push to the infrastructure repository. Then a webhook takes place, it refreshes the application set in Argo CD, and it deploys our preview application. When our preview application starts booting up, it will be unhealthy for a while, but for this reason we have a mechanism where we are essentially polling the app health. When the application is healthy, we are updating the status reply, and we get a beautiful URL for us to test the changes that Codex did, which is quite amazing, honestly, because you see, it is an exact replica of my production environment, but it is a real environment, so I can see how all the changes would act on my production. Right? And then I check the changes. Again, if I like what I see, I merge. If I don't like what I see, I close the pull request, and that's done. And now let's see how it all works in action. Now what I have here is my Neon dashboard. We can see in my tables preview that I have the following schema right now. I have documents, document versions, and user workspaces. This is for a markdown application that I have that allows me to write markdown files and take those files with me anywhere on my phone, on blah blah blah. This is basically a simple React application that I built for myself. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to ask the agent. This would not make sense in a real setting, but just so I can showcase the workflow, I will ask the agent to create a new table that would be document counts and place these document counts somewhere in the bottom status bar. I will open a new issue and say add document counts and place some identifier, some tracker of the counts in the bottom status bar. As the title suggests, we need to add document counts. We are creating the issue now, and I'm going to tag my agent. My trigger keyword is cubeden-agent, which is my username -agent, and I'll say let's go. When I do, the first workflow will trigger. Here it starts, and this is the one we talked about here, the first workflow, the one that collects the issue context and lets the agent run. In a second, we will see that the init, issue reply is active, and we can track what the agent is doing. We can see that it accepted the request, preview database branch is ready, and the agent is now making the changes. Okay, and the agent is now done. It took it about 3 minutes, and we can see that the status reply got updated. The configure check passed, and the draft pull request is ready. We also get a summary with what had been implemented and changed, and the checks that were executed. Then we can go to the linked pull request, which when we open, we'll see the same summary, checks and changes noted down again. If we scroll down here, we will see that we have another status reply which directly correlates with this workflow and the things that are happening here, this status reply. Following the status reply, it says I have Neon branch ready, which means we can go and explore what we have. This is our production branch in Neon. If I go and take a look at the branch that was just created, we can see that I now have a new table here called document counts. If I go back to the workflow, I will have to wait for a couple of minutes so that the application becomes healthy. And now the Argo CD application got created here, and we are waiting for the certificate challenges to pass. They have passed, and when we look at the preview workflow, the one that handles the preview environment, we will soon see that the preview URL is going to be accessible. The URL is now accessible, it returned 200 OK, and if we go back to the workflow itself, we will see that the two checkpoints were reached. We get the URL here in the status reply, which we can click and explore if our application is working as expected. Then taking a look at the application, everything seems to be working right now, which means that I can now merge the pull request into production, which will merge the document counts table functionality into production. And we can see that here in the bottom we have 4 documents. If I create a 5th document, we have 5 documents here. So essentially everything seems to be working. Now I will come back here again in my pull request. I will merge this pull request, which in itself will trigger the cleanup job. If we go to actions here, we will see that a cleanup job will take place in a bit. Here, the cleanup job started, which takes responsibility to merge the changes that we just reviewed on our preview environment into production. When this happens, the issue status reply will be updated as well, as it just got, and we will have our task completed, ready to start another one, then another one, and another one, and another one. This is pretty much the entire workflow. I think it is quite nice. It is pretty neat, especially when working in a team with many developers, because anyone can navigate the workflow, see what it is changing, and make use of the preview environments. Thank you for watching. If you liked what you see, again, I have the Claude Code and Codex skills in the description below for you to get this entire thing working in your environment. Again, it only works for Neon, but it can very well work with any other database. You will just have to tune it a little bit to match your setup. Other than that, I have a blog post about it. It is again in the description. And this is pretty much it for this video. Thank you for watching, and until next time.